From distant lands we gather, hearts of fire all along. Oh, big Nick calls we follow, through the storm and through the fight. For Valhalla we will borrow strength and might under moonlight. Warriors of the ancient sea, songs of glory dark and bold. In the night, our spirits free, legends born, tales unfold. Oh, big because we follow, through the storm and through the fight. For Valhalla we will borrow strength and might under moonlight. From horizons wild we roam, with thunder in our soul. Every battle brings us home to the stories ages told. Oh, big Nick calls we follow, through the storm and through the fight. For Valhalla we will borrow strength and might under moonlight.
Hey, old folks. Another day in the Karen Reed trial. And today we heard from Loughran? Yeah. We heard from Lucky with his Franken truck. And we all remember him from last year, or maybe a few of us, half of us. A bunch of us remember him from the last trial. Genuinely honest guy about more or less everything. Genuinely, a genuine good guy, folks. Genuine good guy. And I'm going to focus on this stream on the cross-examination by Mr. Brennan, because this falls somewhat into my wheelhouse when Brennan is questioning Lucky's ability to work. And as you might know, employment and labor law, that's my wheelhouse. I have represented for the past 30 years, literally, I mean, I did a calculation some time ago. We're talking about over 1,500 workers in different cases and in different capacities. So this is my wheelhouse. So hence, that's the... Now, I will rant, folks. I will rant. This is not how I would actually represent Lucky if he was my client as an employee. It would be very different. But because here I actually gesticulate and show emotion. I do not show emotion when I represent my clients in their endeavors. Let's just say that. This is why me doing this is so liberating, because it's not just a old serial. I have a resting serial killer face. At least if you see my passport photo and my driver's license, yeah, I would easily be a suspect in anything. Hey, Andy Kopsa. Yeah, I can go live on Twitter again. I don't know when it changed again, because for the past 2 weeks, it's been off and on X. So I don't know what happened. I'm glad when it happens, because, hey, I have an audience over at X as well. but first of all, let's see who's here. Let's say hi to Amica Fan, Derek, Yedayen, Gwendolyn, Mdubia, Brooklyn, Bobby Prince, Christine, Gina, Andy. Andy's over at X. Hey. And hello, you guys over at Rumble. Yes, I am streaming YouTube, Rumble, X. So 3 platforms. Let's see how it goes. But okay, so that was the bit of an introduction. So we are focusing on the cross-examination. And let's see here, so we can get this like that. Dun, 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 playbacks. Yep.
It's the exhibit.
Oh, I'm sorry.
All right, Mr. Brennan, whenever you're ready.
And here is no longer balding Mr. Brennan because hair in a cap.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Have you and I met before?
No, sir.
This is our first time speaking.
Yes, sir.
Sir, you say that your memory from that night is very strong. Would it be fair to say that before today, you've talked about this case many times?
Yes.
So has the state's witnesses.
You've interviewed with different law enforcement people as well as civilians and attorneys, haven't you?
Correct.
I have not been one of them.
No, you have not.
And is it fair to say that when you've recounted that night as far as times and what you saw, many times your memory has changed? Is that fair to say?
It has not.
You spoke to...
This is not uncommon when it comes to labor and employment law. Do you actually remember everything correct? It's been some time. Have you talked to others? And do memories sometimes shift? Yeah, it's a thing. Especially when you talk to a lot of people. That is why it's important to have the first conversation down. In my area, often I show up as the second, third, or fourth person the employee is talking to. Often when something happens at a workplace, it's the first it's the direct boss to the employee. It is the boss's boss, and then HR gets involved. And everybody, I can say you this, everyone except the direct boss, the boss's boss, and the HR is there to avoid their liability. Yeah, and as Andy says, lucky to me, is a labor guy. He's not going to forget this. His root is etched in his mind. Yeah. So when I join in, when I get the case, I call the employee and tell him, do not sign a single thing until I am there. Because you can be damn sure that the HR writes down their interpretation of the events and wants him or her to sign it. So, first of all, I need to get there as soon as possible. Employee, do not sign a single thing. But so again, this is me looking at this from my area of law. Dun, dun, dun.
A private investigator on behalf of the defense shortly after that night?
Yes.
Was that the first time that you spoke to somebody about what you had seen or not seen?
Yes.
That is the first time?
Yes.
Inevitably, over time, you have given statements to at least 4 different people, correct?
Correct.
And you've testified in court under oath?
Correct.
During the pendency from that night until today, it's fair to say there are many times where you have been intimidated, isn't it?
No.
You've been threatened.
Nope.
You are aware, sir.
Again, doesn't happen a lot, but it happens if, especially if the employer knows that I am on the way, and all of a sudden the employee says, "I'm not going to sign this." Were you threatened? Did they say something to make you not sign this? Folks, it happens. It happens.
That you were being threatened by an online blogger to expose you?
I was not.
You're saying as you sit here today, you have no awareness in the history of this case that you were being threatened by an online blogger?
I was not threatened by an online blogger.
Choice of words here, because what Brennan means is that Turtle Boy was threatening. What Lucky says, I wasn't threatened. So it's a choice of word. It sounds very similar, but it was so they are talking a bit beside each other. But for the jury, I believe here, Lucky is believable. Absolutely believable when he says this.
Was the online blogger threatening or saying that he would expose you and tell personal things about you if you weren't helpful?
He was not threatening.
Let's remove the word threatening. Was the person communicating and making clear to you that if you didn't testify in a certain way, there would be some consequence to you?
Objection, facts not in evidence. Nothing Turtle Boy said, did, whatevers, wrote, talked, recorded is in evidence. Now, this is impeachment during cross-examination. So, yes, there are leeways. But if he doesn't know about it, move along. But welcome to Judge Boyd's court.
Objection. Can we have a time frame, please?
Any time from when you first spoke to the private investigator until today, were there communications made to you by an online blogger that there would be consequence for you if you didn't testify in a way that was acceptable to them?
No,
You listened, of course, didn't you, to podcasts that were about you?
I did not.
People told you about them.
Yes, they did.
When friends told you about them, you knew who that person was that was making those claims, correct?
Correct.
You were well aware of the person had a very strong and large social media presence.
I didn't know how large or what his presence were, but
Basically, what was happening here is that a bunch of his friends told him, you need to do the right thing. You know, you need to make yourself available. Remember, the state never asked about this, about Lucky, because Proctor lied about there was no plowing of Fairview that night. Proctor lied. But then the defense got a hold of him. And not until then they tried to interview him. I believe a year and a half later. No, Derek, I don't think Turtle Boy is short with trying to intimidate Lucky.
yes, I knew he had a blog.
Well, you know now because you follow that blogger now, don't you?
I do follow him, yes.
You pay for a subscription?
I do not.
Did you get one for free?
I did not.
And in following that blogger, you know full well the power that person has to get attention from the community to harass, correct?
Yes.
And so during the pendency of this case, not only were you aware that you were being pressured to testify a certain way, you also knew there'd be consequences to it. Isn't that true?
Objection.
I'm going to allow that.
The premise of that question is not accurate.
So he can answer that.
You knew there was pressure for you to testify a certain way in this case, didn't you?
I did not know I was being required to testify a certain way. I was also at the time dealing with the loss of my wife. I was not paying any attention to any social media.
Sorry for your loss, but you are aware during the pendency of this case that there has been pressure on you to testify in a certain way. Isn't that fair to say?
No,
Sir, you received a call from that blogger, didn't you?
I did.
And during that call, did you know the person was recording you?
I did not.
You later learned that the person recorded you.
I did not.
Do you know that your conversations were spread throughout the community online?
I was.
Sir, some of those communications or inquiries were claims that you would be exposed for personal matters if you didn't testify a certain way, weren't they?
No.
Inevitably, you've met this person, haven't you?
I've seen him. I haven't met him.
Have you ever spent time with him?
No, I have not.
You're still a follower of that blog.
I am.
When you follow the blog, do you read anything or do you watch it?
No, I don't do much anything towards the blogger.
As you follow it, you can see there are oftentimes articles about you.
No.
Haven't you ever been encouraged to do the right thing?
How is this impeachment? Have you been encouraged to do the right thing? Yeah. And he did. Now, from my point of view, looking at this as if, hypothetically, Lucky was my client, this interview would have been over long ago. Because we wouldn't have reached trial if this was solely about what Lucky was doing that night. This would have been over long ago. From a labor law. Now, if this became a criminal matter, then yes, of course, he has to sit down and make statements. Other than that, he's shutting he's staying quiet.
No.
Haven't you ever been celebrated after you've testified in a way favorable for one side
Yes.
or the other?
Yes.
And so when you were being celebrated, that certainly took off any pressure that there would be consequence, didn't it?
Objection.
Ask it differently.
No, this is, in my opinion, in this trial, is. Let's back up and listen to it again.
And so when you were being celebrated, that certainly took off any pressure that there would be consequence, didn't it?
Objection.
Assumes facts not in evidence, goes to now. Does this goes to his state of mind afterwards? It doesn't matter what happened afterwards. It's his testimony. Did he expect to be celebrated? No. It's a false premise question that shouldn't be allowed.
Ask it differently.
When you were celebrated for testifying a certain way, did you find that to be encouraging?
Objection.
I'm going to allow it.
And Judge Davis allowed.
I did find it to be encouraging,
Did
but
you?
I did not want it. I don't think I deserved it. All I was doing was my job and telling the truth.
I love this man. I genuinely. This is the absolute truth from Lucky. He was doing his job and he was telling the truth. He cannot be held responsible over what others do. Right? Right?
Did you enjoy the attention that you got?
I did not.
Did you pose in photographs with people who support one side or the other?
I did.
And when you were in those photographs, are you saying that you didn't enjoy the attention that you were receiving?
I did not. Again, I was trying to be polite and trying to avoid any confrontation that may come from something if I said no.
Well, did anybody from the district attorney's office ever suggest they would confront you or punish you if you didn't testify a certain way?
No.
How many friends contacted you about what was being said before you testified, the pressure? How many people told you about that?
I couldn't tell you. All my friends were telling me.
So you were hearing a lot of noise or information from your friend group and community about what was being said about you?
Yes.
So what? So what? He had his surroundings, which I assume, for the sake of my argument, are also honest, hardworking people, colleagues, friends, family, who all told him, do the right thing, tell the truth, that's all you can do. And then afterwards, they were appreciative of him. That and he says, I honestly love Hank kick himself in the nether regions while simultaneously getting his nether regions handed to him by a genuinely truthful salt of the earth guy. Yeah. I agree. And I saw this also. Hank sold his soul for $250K. You're assuming he has something to sell.
And this was before you testified at the first trial, sir?
This was before.
Sir, you work hard, don't you?
I do.
You work many different jobs.
I do.
You try to be a good citizen.
I do.
You are not looking for attention.
I am not.
It was brought to you.
It was brought to me.
You wish you never had that attention, don't you?
Yes.
Because you just want to live your life the way you want to live it rather than have people you don't know attacking, criticizing, or intimidating you.
Objection.
I'll allow that.
Why are you allowing
Could you
this?
repeat that, please?
Would it be fair to say that you simply want to live your life the way you've been living it without outside people attacking or pressuring or threatening you?
I wonder if the McCabe's and Alberts ever try to reach out to him. Hey, Tammy, asking, are you feeling better today? I am. I just needed a brief pause because I have my workload at work at the moment is quite large, which gives me limited time to do this. That's why you have only seen short form videos, more short form videos of me lately, more than the longer stream you might be used to. I hope it will pass in a couple of weeks, but sadly by then the Karen Reed trial might be over. Friday, I will do a Friday show about this entire week in the Karen Reed case. But tomorrow, news in the YSL RICO. News about the YSL RICO. So I will do that. I might have guests on as well. But let's get back to this.
Yes.
On June 15, 2023, you were contacted by the defense private investigator, weren't you? And you may not know the dates. Were you contacted twice by the private investigator?
I would need to know what time frame we're looking at.
Fair enough. By the way, the blogger that I speak of, do you know if he is friendly or supports one side over the other?
That goes to another person's state of mind. And if he wants to know that, he should call Aiden. I can assure you, neither the defense nor the prosecution wants Aiden on the stand. Aiden Turtleboy. Because Aiden, I, in my opinion, will gladly spend a few nights in jail in contempt of court as long as he can say some uncomfortable truths.
I know he is friendly towards one side, yes.
Okay. The side sitting in the back of the room?
I would say the defense team.
You've interacted with a private investigator hired by the defense.
Yes,
Have you also interacted with any of the attorneys?
yes.
Which attorneys have you interacted with?
Mr. Yannetti,
Have you contacted or have you spoken to any other attorneys other than Mr. Yannetti?
just Mr. Yannetti.
How many times have you spoken to Mr. Yannetti?
Again, what are we talking? First trial, this trial?
The entire time from that night until today. Can you remember how many times that you've
About
spoken?
5 times.
How many times have you gone in to be interviewed by him?
4 times?
During those interviews, were they spaced out over the course of this case?
Yes.
What was the purpose of those interviews?
To go over my testimony.
When you went over testimony, were you ever shown prior testimony?
Yes.
Were you shown prior reports?
No.
Were you shown a prior investigator's report?
Yes.
Were you shown a prior report by a law enforcement agency that is not the state police and not Canton?
Not by Mr. Yannetti. I saw that first document for the first time during the first trial.
When you were discussing your testimony, was there a discussion about the fact
That
that
would be
the
the
times
FBI report.
that you gave the private investigator were different than the report from that law enforcement agency?
Could you repeat that question, please?
When you were preparing for trial in those meetings, was it brought up, did you discuss that there was a difference in your memory, or at least in the reports, between what you told the defense private investigator and what you told that other law enforcement agency?
No.
Were you aware that there was a difference between the different states?
This sounds so bad, doesn't it? Especially after the defense have brought up that basically every single state witness has changed their mind an enormous amount of times between the first time they talked, the second, third, the grand juries, the first trial, and this trial. So, of course, this is absolutely nefarious. There's a difference between the statements. Oh, you're going to be, if you haven't already seen it, you're going to be so pissed off about the absolute horse shit reason.
Statements attributed in your memory as to time.
The first trial, yes.
When you were with the defense preparing for trial, did you go over your testimony?
Yes.
Go over questions and answers?
Yes.
Were you ever subjected to a make-pretend cross-examination about issues that were important in this case?
No.
Were you ever pointed to any particular issues that were important to talk about in this case?
No.
When you did the questions and answers, were they written down or just a conversation?
Can you repeat that one, please? I'm sorry.
When you went through the questions and answers in preparing, practicing for your testimony, were they written down?
So ask it differently.
When you were preparing for your testimony, were the questions and answers written down, or was it just speaking?
Just speaking.
Those 4 times that you met, is that a guess, or was it 4 times?
It was about 4 times, yes.
Could it have been more?
No.
And during those 4 times, was there anything different other than going through questions and answers about testimony and preparation? Was there any other subjects you talked about?
There were none.
Did you ever receive any compensation, sir?
I received none.
Do you know whether people were sending you compensation that you didn't receive?
No.
Listen to this asshole question. Listen again.
Do you know whether people were sending you compensation that you didn't receive?
Do you know if other people were sending you compensation that you didn't receive? If people send, hey, to the defense attorney or to Aiden, hey, can you give this to Lucky? It ain't going to Lucky. It will be either sent back or with a letter, I will not contact Lucky for you. Or if the law firm probably also said, we can't do this for you. But how the fuck would he know? What? What an absolutely imbecile question.
No.
You don't know?
I never received.
Oh, and by the way, if you're completely new here and is a bit shocked over my use of certain words, hold on to your breeches. It will happen a lot.
Anything.
Were you given anything to bring home with you so that you could remember past testimony or some of the questions and answers that were going to be asked?
No.
How long were your meetings in preparation for your testimony?
About 45 minutes to an hour.
Were they all about the same time or were they different? When you came into court last year, it's fair to say this is after you became aware of essentially being targeted, correct?
Objection.
He can answer that if he can.
No. The phrasing of the question is wrong. It assumes he was targeted. It assumes a lot of things that's not in evidence. It assumes a state of mind that he cannot testify to, because it assumes that other people were, quote unquote, targeting him. He can't testify to that, or shouldn't. But this is Brennan trying to, not so subtle, implicate in, he's just testifying because of threats, targetings, and everything. And no.
Can you answer that, Mr. Loughran?
I can. I don't ever felt like I was being targeted.
This was after you received all the information from your friends and people in the community that you were being attacked.
I'll allow that.
This line of questioning should not be allowed at all.
Again, I don't feel like I was being targeted.
Are you concerned after this case what happens with the blogger that you follow?
No.
You talked about your meeting with the private investigator. The first time you met him, do you remember that meeting?
Yes.
Do you remember where you met him?
I met him at my place of employment.
Did you go anywhere with him that day?
No, I did not.
You had a conversation with him and you spoke about what you had remembered from that night?
Yes.
Do you remember when you spoke to that private investigator, you weren't sure how many times you went up and down Fairview that night? That you had said 2 or 3?
No, I told him I went up at 2:30 at 2. I told him at 3:30 I went up 2. Went up and down. And I told him about 3 hours later I went up and down. I went down and wasn't able to go around the police cruisers and had to turn around at Carriage Lane.
You mentioned that you believe you told the private investigator that you went up and down at 2:30. Do you remember when you spoke to the private investigator you actually said 3 o'clock?
I don't remember the 3 o'clock.
Even if that's correct, does it really matter? Because he never saw John's body on that lawn. Lucky here is holding his own. He's incredibly strong-willed. He has a pathos few others have. He's a genuine good guy trying to do the right thing. That's the core. That's the core of who Lucky is. He's a good guy trying to do good things and doing the right thing here. I'm genuinely impressed by Lucky. Genuinely impressed. There are many people would buckle under the pressure Brennan brings. Not Lucky.
May I approach?
Yes.
And before I do you remember you said that when you went on your second pass, it was around 3:15?
I told him I went up Fairview between about 2:40 to 2:45, and I said about 45 minutes later, I went for the second time.
Okay. Now you had said 2:30, and you just now said 2:40 to 2:45, and then you said 45 minutes later.
Yep.
Okay.
Lucky here is talking about his. Yeah, let's just move on.
Do you remember telling the private investigator that when you think, or you said you saw a Ford Edge, you were actually still on Cedar Brook, not on Fairview passing by it, but you saw it from the street at Cedar Brook? Do you remember telling him that?
I
Sorry,
don't remember.
Cedar Crest.
I don't remember ever saying that.
Okay. May I approach?
Yes.
Again, from my area of law, this is not unusual. Did you really remember it this and in this way? Are you sure you didn't mean this time and this time? Now, as a representative, I have already got as much as I can about the timeline. I have gotten, what did you see? What did you pass? Is this your regular route? Everything I humanly possible could get out in shape of facts. I already, so if this was as in my area, most are done in negotiations, mitigations, pre-trial, so to speak, to avoid any to avoid trial. In this, in my setting, this would be me answering for my client. If they tried to, oh, but are you sure? Here's the statement. So it's a lot different from a criminal proceeding if you go by my area of law. So it's a bit different. But my responsibility towards my client is to represent him in order to, so he won't be liable if anything happened. Or if we conclude, yeah, you fucked up, how to mitigate that liability. But more often than not, in this kind of situation, if they are trying to say, oh, you did something wrong, the burden of proof is on their side. And whatever they say, okay, what do you have to say that didn't happen? Or your viewpoint is correct. What do you have for information? For instance, Lucky doesn't have a GPS in his Franken truck. He doesn't have a camera. I would ask the employer, why doesn't he have a camera? Is it because you don't want a camera in the truck to have plausible deniability of your own liability. Stuff like that.
I'll show you a copy.
Oh yeah, and by the way, in a direct examination, Lucky said, well, he has contacts. So, and I saw this on X and in Law and Crimes. Oh, he lied. He has to use glasses to see. These are reading glasses, you fucktwat. This means he needs it to read from a close range. It's reading glasses. Jesus Christ. Some of these people in the anti-Karen Read community, or the you remember when Brennan said dog bite community to Dr. Russell, which there are none. I'm trying to start one, by the way. The anti-Karen Read community is an absolute vile bunch of people. Absolute vile bunch of people. Now, I know the free Karen Read movement at times can be obnoxious. I don't agree sometimes with the way people are handling themselves. But when it comes to the anti-Karen Read crowd, few exceptions to the general rule that they are vile human beings. Few exceptions.
This is a report that you didn't write, so I don't want you to read it. I want to show it to you and see if it helps remind you of what you told the private investigator that day. You can look at any part of this, but what I'm asking you is whether or not you remember telling the private investigator that when you saw the car,
The pro
you
Albert
weren't
mob.
passing
Yep.
on Fair when you were up on Cedar. That's the question I'm asking. So I'd ask you to look at whatever part you want, but I'm going to point out the part to you. When you're done, don't answer, just look up, and then I'll get to ask you some questions about your memory, okay? And so I directed to this part, but you know,
If this happened if I was representing Lucky in a employee-employer situation, I would read it. Because this is, well, first of all, if this was something me and him, when we went through the timeline, if I was representing him in my area of law, labor and employment, this would have been mine. Now, what he then would be showing Lucky, that would be the HR report of events in order to try to impeach him. Because if me and Lucky if I am going down, this is the timeline according to you. I ask questions. Okay. Is there anything you want to change in here? No. Okay. This is the timeline. This is equivalent to, let's see here. Let me restart here. I talked myself out of logic here. If this was the timeline, because this is the defense investigator who is also trying to get he's writing down what Lucky is saying. And Jesus Christ, I lost my trail of thought here. Ignore, move on.
part that you want.
I might get back to it.
Are you done, sir?
Yes.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Sir, do you now remember when you were speaking to the defense investigator about seeing a car? You said that about 3:30 to 4 a.m., when you were plowing Cedar Crest Road, you looked toward Fairview Road and saw a small SUV parked in front of the house. Remember telling the PI that?
I never remember telling him that.
What Brennan is trying to do here is impeach Lucky with a summary report.
When you spoke to law enforcement, not the Canton Police or the state police, you understood it was important to be as accurate as possible?
Yes.
And you understood, at least with that law enforcement agency, if you misled them in any way, it could be up to a 10-year penalty?
Yes.
Also, now it is okay to say not only that, but the amount of years he was facing. But with Dever, you know, the memory implanted police officer, it wasn't okay at all to go through with that.
When you spoke to them,
Yes.
did you
it
take
was
that
This is
interview
a
very
summary
seriously?
report, not written by law.
Yes.
Try to be as precise and accurate as you could?
Yes.
And when you spoke to them, obviously, like anybody, you had in mind that there could be serious consequences if they felt misled.
Yes.
You try to be honest with them,
Yes.
provide them your best memory in good faith.
Yes.
And this was shortly before, well, actually, this was May 24th, 2023, correct?
Correct.
When you met, there was more than one person there from this agency?
I believe so.
Was there potentially two?
There was two.
And when you met with them, they asked you about when you began working that night.
Yes.
You told them 11:30 to midnight.
I never told him that.
And so as you sit here today, your memory is you did not tell those law enforcement agents that you began work at 11:30 to 12?
We had a 2:30 start time.
I understand, but I'm asking you,
I never told him. It was always 2:30 start time.
when you spoke to them, do you remember telling them the first time you were out near the area was midnight?
Nope. No.
When you spoke to those law enforcement personnel, were they taking notes?
I believe so.
Have you ever seen their report?
The first trial I did, yes.
Who showed you that report?
It was shown to me by Prosecutor Lally.
You think Prosecutor Lally showed you that report?
It was shown to me.
And do you remember telling those two law enforcement personnel that you believe that there were emergency vehicles, ambulances, or police cars in front of Fairview at 3 to 3:30 a.m.?
I do not.
Are you saying that you did not say these things to them, or are you saying that that's not your memory?
That's not what I said.
And so you're saying that's wrong. You're denying
Correct.
you made those statements.
Correct.
At the time they say that you told them there was emergency vehicles there at 3 a.m., that is the same time that you told the PI that you saw the Ford Edge, around 3:30 to 4, correct?
About 3:30 is when I saw the Ford Edge.
Solid. Yeah. Solid as a rock. Let's hear. Let's go back here. Lucky has already said he did not say that to the feds. And still,
They say that you told them there was emergency vehicles there at 3 a.m., that is the same time that you told the PI that you saw the Ford Edge, around 3:30 to 4, correct?
Reminder here, we don't get to see what is actually in that report, the Fed's report. We don't get to see if what Brennan says is actually accurate.
About 3:30 is when I saw the Ford Edge.
It was dark out that night, wasn't it?
Correct.
There are no street lights down near that flagpole area of 34 Fairview, is there?
Yes, there is.
Okay. Was it on that night?
I can't tell you honestly if it was.
You testified at trial.
Here's what's the definition of near that flagpole? Because I believe the flagpole is in between those lights.
I'm sorry, at a proceeding last year?
I testified that there were. It was asked to me that there were not any streetlights, and I answered it in the affirmative way. And living in that neighborhood, I saw that there were actual streetlights.
You testified at a...
There are streetlights at Fairview Drive or Road or whatever it is. And this is a question of definition here. Is it actually by the flagpole, or is the flagpole in between two streetlights? But it's still lit up, even if it is in between.
Proceeding last year, didn't you?
Yes.
I mean, you testified at the proceeding. Did you meet anybody from the defense close in time to that proceeding?
I don't know, when we met, how close to the proceedings it was.
Do you remember being prepared before you went into trial last time?
Yes,
By?
by Yannetti, excuse me.
Do you remember telling the defense private investigator that you made your final pass at 6:30 a.m.?
I remember I told him it was about 3 hours going down Cedar Crest and was not able to go to the end of Fairview due to the first responders.
At trial last year, do you remember saying it was 5:30?
I did.
And today you had said about 6:15.
Yes.
You weren't timing anything on a watch for times, were you?
I was not.
You were not accounting in any way for time whatsoever when you were out that night, were you?
No, I was not.
When you're providing times, are you trying to use your best memory?
Yes.
Do you recognize that you have a differing memory on times of what you did that night?
No.
You talked about your view from the tow truck and that you have a bunch of lights on it. On the tow truck, you had mentioned that your vision to the side was 5 to 6 feet.
Can you rephrase that, please?
Yes, of course. You said when you were driving your tow truck, you could see forward and sideways.
Okay. I don't want to be... I don't drive a tow truck.
My apologies. My apologies. Your snowplow.
Thank
You
you.
said you can see forward and sideways.
I can see forward, I can see diagonal, and I can see right to left.
When you look right to left, you said you could see about 5 feet.
Correct.
Do the lighting conditions affect how well you can see?
No.
Does the weather?
Yes.
When you're plowing, are you ever looking at the street in front of you?
Yes.
Are you looking at people's front yards?
Yes.
And so, what did you see as far as the front door of the Albert House that night? Was it open or closed?
It was closed.
With lights on?
I can't answer that for sure. I don't remember if there were lights on.
How about the neighbors on the left? Were you looking at their front lawn?
Yes.
Did you see if their lights were on?
Again, I didn't recognize if there.
When it comes to memory, if you are asked continuously about focusing on the memories regarding 34 Fairview, of course, your memory then, okay, this is my memories. I'm focusing on this, which also means that your general memories of other properties around that road gets a little hazy because you were never asked about the surrounding property. That's natural. And here Brennan is. And folks, I can guarantee you, if it was the other way around, if Brennan was asking a cop about 34 Fairview, and then the defense were asking, well, what about the surrounding? He would have objected like a maniac. The focus of this is not the adjacent properties. It is about 34 Fairview. But here, he's trying to use this as a form of impeachment. And oh, fuck, guys, this is going to piss you off. What he's actually trying to impeach Lucky with.
Their lights were on.
Do you look at every neighbor's front lawn up to the door as you're driving in the snow plowing?
I look to the right and to the left, and my eyes will graze to the yard. Yes, I will look there.
You were saying you have a specific memory of looking at the Albert front yard all the way to the door. Do you have a specific memory of looking at the other neighbors' yards to their door?
Minimum allowed.
Can you repeat that, please? I'm sorry.
Yes, you said that you looked at the Albert house all the way to the door.
Correct.
Do you have a memory of looking at any other houses all the way to the door?
Yes.
Okay. Which house had a dumpster in front of it?
I don't know. I wasn't paying attention to a dumpster. Dumpster wouldn't be in the front yard.
Are you sure on your route there was no dumpsters in anybody's front yard?
I can tell you there was a dumpster this week.
No. I'm more interested in January 29, 2020.
I can't answer to that. I don't remember.
A dumpster, a 15 by 20 foot dumpster, that would be bigger than a man's body, wouldn't it?
Yes, it would be.
And so you have no really specific memory of the other homes in the neighborhood that night?
I mean, I looked. I saw. I didn't see a dumpster. That would have definitely stuck out.
Okay. You said you had vision as far as your eyes could see.
Correct.
What does that mean?
It means if there were, my eyes were, as long as they're open, I can see as far as they will let me see.
Is that dependent on lighting conditions, darkness, snow?
Correct.
That night, did you have any difficulty paying attention or driving?
I did not.
Did you have a small accident that night?
I did.
Okay, what did you hit?
I hit a portable basketball net.
A small accident is what he calls it. A small accident. He hit the net. Not. They will talk about this, but I will say it already now, so sorry for the spoiler. He didn't actually hit the basketball hoop, the structure, or anything. The fucking net. That's not an accident.
Was that part because of the weather conditions? You didn't have a good opportunity to see it?
No. I definitely saw it and just did not judge enough.
You said that...
in my area of law, this happens when the employer tries to pin a certain thing on my client. So you didn't see it. Yeah, I misjudged the distance. It has happened. I've been through a bunch of those cases where, for instance, forklift. Driving, they were picking something up, and then they would driving around a corner and they misjudged the corner or something that was laying on the floor in the path of the truck. They misjudged to lift the load up a bit. They didn't go far enough left or right to avoid it. And that sometimes the employee, oh, you should have. And my return is, what was that hinder doing there in the way of my client? Now, this is a different situation. Here it is somebody who decided, hey, I'm going to leave my baseball hoop on the side of the road. Yeah. But first of all, why didn't you bring it in? Because if everybody in Canton knows it's going to be a blizzard, bring in your fucking stuff from the road.
You went up and down the road a couple of times. When you were asked to describe the car that you said you saw, when you first spoke to the defendant's private investigator, you didn't give any detail about the type of car, did you?
I told her it was a Ford Edge.
Okay. When you first spoke to...
Yeah, and Brennan is really careful about not going into how he knew it was Ford Edge, because Lally did that mistake in trial 1. How did you know it was a Ford Edge and not a Land Rover? And he explains it. It was so amazing in the first trial.
To the investigator, you used the words Ford Edge?
I did.
Did they bring you to a parking lot at some point?
They did.
And when they brought you to a parking lot, did they have you go out in the parking lot and look at a Ford Edge?
They did.
And when they had you go out and look at the Ford Edge, did they have you identify that as the type of car?
Yes, they did.
And when you did that, how many cars were in the parking lot?
We had a hockey game, so there were several, at least 100, 150.
Who pointed you to the Ford Edge?
I pointed to it.
Did the investigator take you to the Ford Edge?
No, he did not.
It was just an open parking lot and he asked you to look around to see if there happened to be a similar car?
No, I told him a Ford Edge. He wanted to make sure I knew what a Ford Edge looked like. I pointed to the Ford Edge, and he was satisfied.
So after you said a Ford Edge, he brought you to a parking lot to point out a car?
We were at my place of business. We just walked out the door.
Where was that?
At the Metropolis ice rink.
The rink?
Ice rink, yes.
Did you then meet the investigator later on at a school?
Yes, I did.
And who did you meet at the school?
I met Paul again.
And what was the purpose of that?
He wanted to go through my route.
You want to go through your route?
Correct.
And then, did you choose to meet at the school?
I did.
You did?
I did.
And why did you choose the school?
It was an easier landmark for the gentleman to get to, and it was minutes from my route.
Did you know that former Trooper Proctor's sister worked there?
I had no idea.
Who the fuck cares where Trooper Proctor's sister works? And why are you doxing her place of employment, you asshole? Asshole Hank Brennan. Why are you doxing her place of employment in the middle of trial? Well, because he doesn't care about anyone in this trial. Just as he didn't care about the kids revealing how their dad died, or spread a rumor about how he died. Regardless, that shit was infuriating. Let's get back to this. A school is a landmark, and it's close to his route. Nothing nefarious about that.
You said last year that when you went by Fairview, did you say that you would buy your final pass at 5:30 a.m.?
No.
Okay. May I approach?
Yes.
Sir, please, my card. Sir, when you have contact, you also wear reading glasses?
Yes. I can't read things up close.
Understood. This is trial testimony, testimony from June 21st, 2024.
Mhm.
And you were asked do you recall what time it was that you wound up back on Fairview? You said, I honestly...
Oh, thank you, Crow Red Eye. The sister and Proctor claimed she was being harassed or followed. They were actually there to meet Lucky. Yeah. Imagine how you all always feel followed. Especially Proctor and his sister. Especially Proctor. Well, if you did nothing wrong, who cares? You're a cop. You have a gun, Proctor. Or you did at the time.
I don't honestly recall what specific time. Yes?
Yes.
And then you were asked, sure. Approximately, if it was 3:15 to 3:30, that second time, what would be your best estimate of the time when you came back? And what did you say?
Say about 5:30.
And so even last year, you were having some difficulty remembering the times, right?
No, he wasn't. No, specific time of the clock. Yeah, because he goes by route. Okay, I started my route at this time. It takes this long, this long, this long, this long, and then he has to calculate the time he was there. And Brennan already knows that. And we are Flux-rated. Hey, Flux raid. Me raid from Flux. Flux raid. Hello. Hello, Flux. Flux, I heard you might be in Miami. End of September. I am going to be in Miami between September 19th and I fly out in the morning of September 24th. So if you could plan this, your trip to Miami, to around 19th to 23rd, preferably the 20th. Because the 20th, me and Gosney, we're going to a place and try to have a meetup of sorts. So if you could join us there with Mrs. Flux, I would be so happy. And then, or before, well, we are going out for drinks and cigars. we're going Miami. Oh, I would be so happy to meet you finally, Flux. I would be so happy. I would be so happy. Tell Mrs. Flux, I would love to see Mrs. Flux as well.
System.
Were you having difficulty last year remembering the times that you were on Fairview?
No.
When you said you were on Fairview last year at 5:30, you didn't see anything on the Albert front lawn at 5:30 a.m.?
I wasn't on Fairview at 5:30 a.m.
Okay. Were you asked last year about your travels on Fairview?
Yes.
Okay. When you asked about, you recall, was time you wound up on Fairview, and you said you didn't remember. Do you remember that testimony?
I do.
And is that true testimony?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so you had some difficulties in your memory of when you were on Fairview when you testified last year. Isn't that fair to say?
No, it's not fair.
And then you were asked approximately if it was 3:15 to 3:30 the second time, what time did you come back?
And I said, if I were to guess, I said 45 minutes later.
Did you say, I would say, if I had to say, it would have been 5:30 up Fairview?
That time was incorrect. It was 6:15. I couldn't go down any further due to the police presence.
So your testimony last year, you understandably made a mistake about the time, correct?
I did.
And it's true, isn't it, that you really have somewhat foggy memory about the times.
It is not.
That time of 5:30 is very different than the time you told the agents when you met them, I'm sorry, the law enforcement officials that weren't from Canton or the state police. That was very different than when you told them 3 to 3:30.
Very different.
And it's different than the 3:30 to 4 timeline that you gave the defense private investigator the first time you spoke to them. Correct?
Correct.
And it's different than what you told the jury today, that it was 6:15.
It's different, but it's not.
This is Brennan being an asshole. Everybody involved knows that Lucky goes by his route. This is how long it takes. This is what the time should be when I got there. And what's infuriating later is that Brennan is actually going to show in the distance, shown on a dash cam, plow truck going by up at Cedar Crest. So he's knowingly misleading and deceiving the jury. Knowingly. But Lucky is not breaking. He's
When you
just
plowed that night, did you have
answering
any
questions.
reason to look for somebody who was lying on the side of a yard?
No.
Did you have any expectation somebody would be lying helpless on the side of a yard that night?
No.
If you had seen somebody, certainly you would have helped.
Correct.
When you said that, when the private investigator asked you where you were when you said you saw the Ford.
I see in the chat here. Where did it go? Where did it go? Here. He has been misleading the jury all trial. Yes, because the way Brennan is conducting this trial is by acting as a defense attorney, trying to insert reasonable doubt into the defense case instead of proving his own case. That is why everything he does sounds misleading. Now, this is not for a defense attorney who has no real defense. This is what they try to poke hole on the state's case in order to find reasonable doubt. This is what Brennan is doing here, but he is the state. He's a paid goon for the state, trying to poke holes in the defense case instead of proving his own. It is, as NW says, it's burden shifting. This entire trial is not about proving Karen hit John. For Brennan, it is about inserting reasonable doubt into the defense case that it didn't happen, which is abundantly clear, to me at least. That is what's going on.
Edge. Are you saying that you didn't tell the private investigator that you were on Cedar?
I don't remember telling him I was on Cedar Crest. I do remember telling him that I had turned onto Fairview and saw the vehicle.
Cedar Crest in a storm at night is quite a distance from the flagpole at Fairview, isn't it?
No,
About 300 feet?
roughly.
Difficult to see.
300 feet. It sounds. Oh, it's out. Wow! It's way over there. No. It is 100 yards. 100 yards. That is. What is it? 4 houses down? Yeah, I think it is. Four, maybe 5 houses down. Do you consider 4 or 5 houses down a street a far distance? I don't. And remember, now, even if it snowed, even if the blizzard had started, the so-called blizzard, it is real. The difference between watching through a dash cam, because now you're no longer watching through your own eyes, but if you yourself are watching through the snow, you see things that a camera doesn't pick up. You generally has much better vision than a dash cam.
Under those conditions,
No,
could we have Exhibit 71 stream 0 at about 6:17 a.m., please?
Oh, and here we go. Here we go. He's going to show us through dash cams how bad it was. It's so infuriating. Yeah, and the video it shows actually shows it's not that far.
Could you stop it there? Do you see that street light?
I do.
Okay. At the end of that road, past the street light, is Cedar Crest, correct?
Do you consider beyond the street light is Cedar Crest? Do you actually, this is the morning. This is more or less in the height of the so-called blizzard. Do you actually say that's a long distance and you can't see?
Correct.
Is that a fair depiction of the elements that night around that time?
Yeah, a
Yes.
football field is
And in
long.
this case, there's further illumination with the car that's facing us.
Correct.
That wasn't there, was it?
Correct.
You absolute twat, Hank Brennan. That light is pointing directly at the camera. Here, you know what happens if that light isn't there? Your eyes adjust to the new point of light. That is what eyes do, you fucking twat. Again, if you're completely new here and are very, very offended by my words, I won't apologize. This is my channel, and if I want to get demonetized, I will probably be so.
You said after you saw law enforcement, did you come down Fairview after you saw law enforcement?
I was on Fairview already when I saw the law enforcement.
Did you drive by Cedar Crest again to go back and forth and watch what was going on, or did you go on your route?
I went on my route, which included Cedar Crest.
Did you keep driving by because you wanted to watch, or did you just leave and do your regular route?
I went and did my regular route.
Could I have 6:19:27, please? And could you play it? If you could back up a little before 6:19:27.
this is also extremely infuriating.
Is that weather consistent with what it looked like to you?
Yes.
Is that you there?
I don't know if that's me. Yes, that's me. That is me.
Look at that.
Can we go to
6:19.
6:32:45, please?
So his estimate of 6:30 is just 10 minutes off. So you already done, clear, ta fucking da. And then he shows other things.
Is that you again?
No,
That one, I can't tell if that was me again.
Could we go to 6:35:14, please?
yes, what Brennan is trying to say here is that Lucky was nowhere near the place at 6:30
Is that you?
a.m.
I don't see it. I don't see the truck. I'm sorry.
Also, what's going on here is extremely selective. Remember, folks, there's a fuck ton of doorbell cameras and everything around that area of houses, and the state didn't collect, never collected. Because if they had, they would have probably seen that, wasn't Karen Reed's car that hit. She left too early, or the taillight was not completely smashed. They couldn't afford to actually check. Because if they had checked the Ring cameras, they would have a much better view of when Lucky passed by. Yeah, and if they did collect anything, it disappeared.
Sorry.
It's okay. Could we go back to 6:35:12?
That looks like to be a pickup truck. That does not look like my truck.
6:37:45, please.
Yeah, he's a manipulator because he's acting as a defense attorney with no case.
And that's you again, right?
Oh, good point. According to the state, right around where the car you see the back end of, there should be a shoe. Let's check. Nope, wrong one. Do you see any? Because they claim they found it in, let's see, I don't know if you can see my marker, right around here, at the edge of where it was plowed. They claim they found the shoe was. Do you see anything? Because between this and when they found the shoe, there were no plowing. So, where's the fucking shoe? Hey, woman doing fast. I was able to catch a Nick show. You're welcome. You're welcome. Don't think they did until they used a leaf blower. Maybe. But they claim they found the shoe stuffed or pinned against the curb. That was the curb that you see just to the left of that car. Let's watch it again. Where's the fucking shoe? Let's continue.
Again, I can't tell you for sure if that was me.
Those were not your red and orange lights consistent with the earlier ones that went by?
Every
What I saw
snowplow
the
has
first
those
time
lights.
was the reflecting tape off the body of my truck.
We go to
I have
7.
a plow guy that is a contractor that we work tandem together.
And was he out there that night as well, going by Fairview?
Correct.
Okay. Did you ever tell the private investigator about him?
Yes, I did.
7 o'clock, 22 seconds, please.
Did the state interview that guy? No! They didn't interview that guy either. Let me put this up here instead.
Is that you, sir?
Now it's just getting
I
stupid.
can't say for sure.
7:15, 45 seconds, please.
Now it's just I would assume that for the jury this would be extremely stupid. First of all, he's choosing his clips very, very thoroughly. How do we know he's not skipping? Well, we can't because he's a slimy person. Lucky's testimony about this was known mid-February, early to mid-February. Nobody from the state trooper's office didn't do an investigation. Hey, let's check the ring if anybody still has the hard drive from the Cedar Crest Road, one of the houses along that road, to see if we can find Lucky. No, they didn't. Because they weren't interested. They weren't interested in anything that could disprove their case.
Do you recognize that plow?
I do not.
7:19 and 55 seconds, please.
This became stupid a long time ago in this cross-examination.
Was that you, sir?
That was me.
How long does your route take?
It's hard to say. I mean, as long as it's snowing, it can take as long as it takes.
Well, if you're going to do a pass, how long does an entire pass take?
If I were to do from Cedar Crest to the end, it would take probably 10 minutes. If I were to do the entire route, I'm not cleaning up, I'm just giving it a pass so people can get through. Could take about 3 hours, could take 4 hours.
When you mentioned Brian Albert on your direct examination, had you talked to the defense about Brian Albert in your preparation for testimony?
No,
You knew some of the Albert family?
I know the entire Albert family.
And you know Brian Albert as a police officer?
Yes, I do.
Why is it that 3 times in your direct testimony you characterized him as a first responder?
Because he's a police officer. They're first responders.
Did anybody ever suggest to you to use the terms or the phrases first responder when you were describing Brian Albert?
No one did. Those are my words.
Since your trial testimony last year, have you received any more focusing or targeting of harassment?
Objection.
Ask it differently, Mr. Brennan.
Since last year when you testified, have you received any recent aggression towards you for testifying?
No.
Have you had any further focus or problems?
No.
Objection. I'll move this one further.
Yeah. Again, Brennan is playing dirty. Adding in further. Still implying that Lucky was threatened or harassed or targeted.
I'll strike that.
I have no further questions.
Very briefly, sir.
Okay, that was the cross-examination. Now, redirect, because we still haven't seen the dumpster, have we?
You were asked by Mr. Brennan about whether you saw a dumpster that night. Do you recall that line of questioning?
I do.
In the aftermath of January 29th of 2022, was a dumpster all over the news for the next 3.5 years?
Not that I'm aware of.
Yeah, that is, as I explained earlier, this has to do with what have you been asked to actually remember? What was your focus regarding your testimony? That means other memories fade away because you are focused on this one. And Brennan questioning his memory when he has a witness, when another cop admitted to inventing or lying about inventing a whole sequence of events. I'm talking about Dever, and I will have a video out about that person tomorrow on how I believe it is impossible for her to ever work as a law enforcement person. But that will be out tomorrow. Or later today. I don't know. Maybe later
You were
today.
asked about going through your route with the defense investigator and giving a statement to the defense investigator.
Yes.
How soon after January 29th of 2022 was that?
2 weeks.
Were the events fresh in your mind at that time?
Yes.
Finally, actually not finally, I've got 2 more points, but they're both brief. You had mentioned that night you actually misjudged and hit a net.
Yes.
Can you describe the basketball apparatus that, and I'm going to ask you what part of it you hit, but describe what that looks like.
Yeah, now Lucky is explaining the one that Brennan says was a minor accident.
It's got a base with wheels on it. It's portable, so you can move it in and out. And it's got the basketball frame, and it's got the backboard and then rim.
Okay. So this is not a pole that was cemented into the ground.
Correct.
But perhaps we're all familiar with it, the black base that maybe you put sandbags on.
Correct.
That type of thing to keep it in place, but it does have wheels?
Correct.
All right. And you mentioned the net. The net is the rope netting that comes down, correct?
Correct.
There's also a hoop that keeps the net in place?
Yes.
And the pole?
Correct.
And the base?
Correct.
Of all those things, what part did your Franken truck actually catch?
It caught the net in the little bit part of the frame. of the frame where the net was.
Something that you saw from the beginning, you just misjudged the distance.
Correct.
All right, now, finally, with regard to the 5:30 testimony that you gave last year,
Yes.
did you also testify that the last pass that you tried to make when the police were blocking the scene was about 3 hours after that 3:30 second up and down?
Yes.
So why is it last year that you testified that it was 3 hours later, but you came up with the time of 5:30 as the final time?
As he's asking me these questions, I'm trying to do the math in my head. I'm sorry, math is not my strong suit.
Ta-da!
What time was it when you made that final pass, sir?
6:15. 6:15, 6:30.
I have nothing further.
You mentioned you're trying to do the math in your head. There is no reason why you would specifically remember certain times on each pass other than trying to remember and give an accounting, right?
First, thank you, Derek, for your £3 super sticker with a very tanned guy saying, "How's it going?" I'm doing okay. I'm doing okay. I'm doing fine, actually. I'm doing fine. I'm doing fine. I'm in my element. I'm in my element by pointing out that Hank Brennan, or whatever prosecutor it is, remember my YSL trial coverage? How we all exposed the Fulton County District Attorney's Office as absolute frauds. We are doing the same thing here, exposing Canton, Mass DA office as frauds. So I'm doing fine. Now let's continue.
Could you rephrase that, please?
Sure. You don't have your watch out on a certain schedule that you have to pass a certain street at a certain time.
Correct.
You weren't marking your times to some event when you were driving up and down the street that night, were you?
No.
So you're trying to go back with your memory and piece it together the best you can.
Correct.
And that's why you're giving estimates, yes? And
Correct.
when you spoke to those law enforcement officials, not Canton, not state police, and you said at 3 o'clock you saw first responder vehicles, that was based on your memory, wasn't it?
Objection.
It was based on your memory.
Not at 3:30.
Right. Do you know that there was a car similar to a Ford Edge in front of 34 Fairview around 6 a.m. that morning?
I wasn't able to get in front of Fairview Drive, 34 Fairview, at 6 o'clock in the morning.
Have you ever met Kerry Roberts before?
I have not.
Counsel just asked you if there was a lot of media about this case, and you said that there was. Did he just ask you a question about whether there was a lot of attention on this case?
That every time Brennan opens his mouth, he has to mislead everybody. That was not the question asked. The question asked was, what was the focus of their attention? It was not if there was a dumpster on the side of the road on a property. It was around 34 Fairview. Oh, and thank you, Slidey Pie over at Rumble, for your $1 Rumble rant, saying, "Thanks, Nick. Even though I watched this earlier, I wanted to hear your take." Thank you for being here, Slidey Pie. You are an OG over at Rumble on my channel, and you are there. Every time I stream on Rumble, I can be sure that Slidey Pie is there. Thank you so much for being here, Slidey Pie. Thank you so much.
Did he just talk to you about everything that happened after this case, all the attention on this case?
Objection.
You remember his question about all
That is
the
allowing
attention
you.
after this case?
He asked specifically a question about the dumpsters.
And he said that wasn't subject.
Yeah? Lucky just slashing through the bullshit. Mr. Brennan, he was asking specifically about the dumpster.
To a lot of attention, was it?
Correct.
Right. But this case was.
The case itself, yes.
The people involved in this case were subject to a lot of attention.
Correct.
And you spoke to the defense investigator after this case, as far as attention is concerned. You remember speaking to the investigator on June 5th, 2023.
Yes.
And do you know, coincidentally, that is the day that the blogger put out the articles on you, accusing you of not doing the right thing?
Objection.
Lucky talked to the investigators and everything in 2022. This Aiden didn't start writing about this until a year later. So how I'm amazed here, because Brennan seems to believe that either Aiden is a time traveler or Lucky is a time traveler, because how else would Brennan explain that Lucky was influenced by Aiden a year before he started writing about it? Time travel? Is he a psychic? Gah. Ah, David Trailer, thank you so much. $10 super chat. I used to pick medical test samples across the state and deliver to the lab. From my knowledge on the routes alone, every morning I could tell the lab within 3 minutes when I would arrive. Yeah. Now, by proxy, since I represent workers within the heavy industry, I learn a lot about the trucking industry as well, because produce, tools, stuff has to go from point A to point B. By trucks, by lorries, or by train or by boat or whatever's. You have a starting point, time of pickup, and in the other end you have a time of delivery. Every part of that, say you are moving something from Sweden to Ireland. Yes, Ireland. Okay. Whatever place you pick it up from has to be in Gothenburg Harbor before a certain point of time to get onto the shipment. That then goes to England, loaded onto a new truck, driven across England onto another barge or whatever they use for the final trip to Ireland. All of those are pinpointed by, you have to be there at this time, be there at this time, be there at this time. And then the lorry driver knows, okay, that's a 3-hour drive. Boom. They calculate the route to be at a certain place at a certain time. Lucky doesn't have the end point of his time. He knows the beginning of his shift and the end of his shift. That is what he has. And then, okay, to drive this route, it's between 15 minutes and 3 hours, depending on how much I can and needed to plow. Those are the things. So whatever time anything happens in between, he has to calculate what time it was. That is why his clock or time, was it 5:15, 6:15, 3:15? He still has to calculate how long did it take. But for Brennan, being a worker is suspicious.
May I approach?
Yes.
And thank you for the super chat, David. I really, really appreciate it.
Showing you a document.
Oh, this
Let's
is...
take a look at that document.
I can't believe through this piece of garbage, the lead, well, he can lead because it's cross-examination. Aiden's article should not be referenced because It's a year later. It's not important.
What day is that document dated?
June 5th, 2023.
Without reading it, that document.
I don't know the
Possible. You,
Correct.
logistics
Your
in
friends
the United States.
people in the community talked to you about this article, didn't they?
Not specifically this
Brennan is
article,
on recross
but they
here.
were sending me stuff that were being printed about me, yes.
Why don't you take a little look at what's said and you can tell us whether that's the same type of information that was being conveyed to you.
Same type of information that was conveyed secondhand. That is not a direct. That is not something that is directly from. If it's sent, that Jesus fucking Christ.
We're intermediaries.
Sorry.
Can you ask that question again, please?
Okay, sir. Was this some of the kind of attention that you were receiving on June 5th after you spoke to the defense investigator?
Yes.
Like come sidebar?
Okay.
And they have a sidebar. Let's see here. Dun dun dun. Dun dun dun. There. Morning recess.
I have just a few more. Sorry, I have just a few more questions.
Hi,
When I had
Santiago.
mentioned about meeting the defense investigator on June 5th, 2023, I misspoke. It was June 5th, 2024. Does that sound more like it?
Yes.
June 5th, 2024, was that before, shortly before you testified before?
Yes.
You were asked on redirect examination whether any dumpsters got any attention about this case. The question I was asking is, did you
Oh, here we
notice
go.
things that might have been open
Here
and
we go.
obvious? And you
this
have no
pissed
memory
me
of an
the-
actual dumpster
this
in the area, correct?
Royally.
Correct.
Pissed me
If I
off.
could have on the screen Exhibit 37, still photo from that clip.
Why is he doing this as a still photo? Because otherwise you don't see it. When he shows it, I'm going to show you.
May I have a moment, Your Honor?
Sure. Okay.
Exhibit 71. And sir, do you notice the big red dumpster to the right side across?
The big red dumpster on the right side. Let me show you a better. Folks, this is how extremely stupid this is. It's not in the way. It's beside or behind a blue SUV. There's no need to put that on your mind. It's in the driveway. It's not in the way. Of course, you do not. Especially since your memory has been told to you to focus on 34 Fairview. This is the impeachment. Brennan, you're an asshole. You are a fucktwat. I'm sorry. It's my Swedish. I meant four quad, and nothing else. Four quad. Promise. Sometimes my Swedish accent makes my word sound different. It might sound as I said something really, really bad. I was just saying four quad. Okay. Yeah, but that.
From Fairview.
Yes.
Okay, you can take that down.
And quickly he takes it down. Oh, look, it was a dumpster, and he didn't see the dumpster. He didn't remember this big red dumpster. If you hadn't pointed it out, nobody would have seen the fucking dumpster. That is how weak Brennan's impeachment is unlucky. This is the weakness.
Sir, when we started the break, I'd asked you some questions. I showed you a document, asked you if you were aware what was inside that document, and you mentioned that was around June 5th, 2023. That was before your last testimony in this case?
Yes.
And you knew that a person or persons were putting out private pictures of you online?
I did notice.
A year after he talked to, and where it started talking to private investigators and everything about, this is what I saw. And remember, the state wasn't interested. They went with Trooper Proctor lying about Fairview Road not being plowed that night. Again, all comes back to Proctor lying over and over and over again about this case. And that is why the prosecution won't call him, because he's been exposed as a lying liar who lies. He's been exposed, in my opinion, as a person who plants evidence. Even though the board fired him not for planting evidence, even though for me it's very apparent, because even though it was necessary for them to fire Proctor, but not until after the first trial. Not until after the first trial. They couldn't put it, but yes, they fired him, but they selectively fired him for things that might not affect this trial. Selectively.
And those private pictures, you didn't give anybody permission or want that attention, did you?
I did not.
In fact, it wasn't just some private pictures, it was pictures taken from a number of different
The
times in your
defense
life,
will not
correct?
call
Yes.
Trooper Proctor.
You never gave anybody permission to do that?
I did not.
You didn't want people talking about you or asking you questions? That was none of their business, did you?
I did not.
And it was embarrassing that you were being made this public spectacle when you had done nothing wrong, correct?
Ask it differently.
Was it embarrassing what they were doing to you?
I wouldn't say embarrassing, as more as aggravating.
In fact, they were calling your boss.
Objection.
Yes?
I'm going to allow that.
Yes.
And you mentioned how hard you work.
Yes.
Plow, you even deliver peaches to 8 years.
Yes.
Zamboni, anytime you can work, you try hard, don't you?
I do.
And when someone's calling your boss, giving undue attention to you, didn't it create some concern that could affect your livelihood?
I did not think it was going to affect me in that manner.
In addition to dragging you into this,
Oh, fuck you. Nobody dragged him into this. He wasn't dragged. When it was pointed out to him to do the right thing, he did the right thing. and he's doing the right thing. And he should be honored to doing the right thing. And then, folks, we should leave him the fuck alone. Leave Lucky alone. He wants to be alone. For the past, his wife has passed. Leave him the fuck alone. I would love to have a beer with Lucky, but Lucky wants to be left alone, and we should respect that, all of us. Don't try to contact him. Don't send him stuff or try to send him stuff or anything. Leave Lucky the fuck alone. Let him be with his family. Let him grieve his wife with his family and close friends. We love him. We're not his family. We're not his close friends. Leave him the fuck alone.
Because of you, your brother was dragged into this, wasn't he?
Objection.
Ask it differently.
When you were getting this information about what was happening, you learned that they were also dragging your brother into this because of you, correct?
Objection.
I'll sustain that.
Did you learn that information was coming out about your brother?
I knew my brother was dealing with other issues regarding this case.
And certainly, you're close with your brother.
Yes.
You care for your brother.
Yes.
You did not want to upset anybody and have more attention brought onto your brother, did you?
I did not.
And there was an attempt to link your brother to one of the Alberts, in fact, correct?
Yes.
As well as you.
I don't know if I was being linked.
Did you know the information of trying to so-called out you about the fact that you work for Chris Albert?
Objection.
I'm going to sustain that the way it's phrased.
Were you aware when your friends and family were telling you about what was going on, about an attempt to draw a relationship between you and the Alberts?
No.
And were you aware when people were telling you?
Folks, Lucky knows the Alberts, or some of the Alberts. He knows about the Alberts. He worked as a delivery guy for Chris Albert. He had every incentive to stay the fuck away. And he chose to do the right thing.
What was happening, that there was attacks on you personally, like finances and things like that?
Yes, I was aware of that.
And certainly, that is pretty discouraging when that is happening and you've done nothing wrong, isn't it?
It was, again, aggravating.
And this was all happening before you came in and testified last time at the trial.
Correct.
After you testified, things got better.
I wouldn't say better. It's gotten a little more easily manageable.
You were no longer being harassed, you were being embraced.
This
Correct.
is so insanely stupid. This only shows me that Brennan is fully aware of the weakness of his case. Fully aware. And this is what is infuriating me, because a prosecutor should not be out for a conviction. A prosecutor should be searching for the truth. Brennan, in my opinion, is hired by the Commonwealth, by the DA's office, for one purpose and one purpose alone: to prosecute Karen Reed. Not to find the truth, to prosecute with any means necessary. That is what he's being paid for. And that is why he's doing this. There's simply too much reasonable doubt for this. There's too much reasonable doubt. If you just go by the evidence alone, reasonable doubt. The witnesses. Now, he changed his testimony. He got the time wrong at a couple of occasions because he goes by the route. It's not like what was her name? McCabe's friend, Kathy, who through 2 grand juries and 1 trial said she heard this. I Google how long to Google hypothermia, and then in just before this trial, no, I never heard it. Promise, I misheard the question. Through 2 grand juries, an interview with the FBI, and the first trial, you lying sack of shit, Kathy. You're a liar, and you know you're a liar, and you should be ashamed of yourself. Jen McCabe, who claimed up until this trial that she was looking at Karen Reed's SUV at 12:45 a.m. She knew it because she was texting and looking out the window at the same time. Again, through interviews, grand juries, FBI, and first trial. Until it was proven that was physically impossible. All of a sudden, well, I thought it was. The defense doesn't have a burden of proof. The state has. And for me, it's abundantly clear. There is no case. I'm closer to actual innocence than just beyond a reasonable doubt.
Yes.
Showing you a photograph, do you recognize that?
I do.
Is that part of the embracing process after you testified a certain way at the last trial?
It was after I testified, yes.
With redactions alone, we will introduce a select portion of this.
So I need to see what that is. Come to sidebar and make this very brief, please.
Yeah, and this is the Turtleball article that they are trying to get into evidence, and apparently they succeeded.
Madam Clerk, Madam Court Reporter, please.
212.
Does this mean that I believe what is about to happen if we are going to check the dockets tomorrow, the Commonwealth will have a motion in for more or less everything of the scam witness intimidation charges against Aiden. And then they will try to use, if they succeed, which it is a high likelihood, they will use that to claim that all the defense witnesses are forced to be there. So this case might be turned on its head a few more times.
And I just showed you a photograph. Is that a fair and accurate depiction of you after your last testimony?
Yes.
reflecting you now being embraced rather than attacked?
Yes.
Could we show the photo, please, Ms. Gilman, with the court's permission?
Yes.
And that's you, Mr. Loughran?
Yes.
You can take that down, please. Thank you for your time.
Just very briefly, sir, if I might, Your Honor.
Sure.
Mr. Loughran, I should say. The questioning about the attention that you received in 2023 when you received secondhand the information from the blogger, was that before or long after you were interviewed and gave a statement to the defense investigator in February of 2022?
It was long after.
Nothing further. Thank you.
Okay. All right, Mr. Loughran, you are all set, sir. Okay. There another witness, Mr.
Now, the next witness, we heard about speculations about, oh, she's going to talk about this, and this. He didn't. She just were there to talk about they were a bit lovey-dovey, John and Karen, and that she didn't think. She, as a licensed pharmacist, didn't see Karen Reed as intoxicated. That was it. Now, how is that important? Well, a licensed pharmacist can deny people access to their medication or refuse service if they turn in a recipe if they think this person is under the influence. So they are actually trained at it. How important it is in the grand scheme of things, I don't know. But it wasn't world turning. It was not. It wasn't turning anything upside down or anything. So I won't go through her. And folks, tomorrow there won't be. Apparently, they are way ahead again. So they sent the jury home for tomorrow. I don't know if it will be a full day or a half day or anything on Friday. So tomorrow I will give you updates on the YSL trial because there has been a new plea deal. And we will go through tomorrow. I'm trying to secure Sedi Nash and Doug so we can go through the fact that the entire RICO case, a $15 to $20 million trial that lasted a year and a half, judge recused, everything shady, didn't actually result in a conviction of murder. None of the alleged murders in the YSL RICO got to a conviction. So that's tomorrow. Friday is Sweden's National Day. Also, June 6th, we are celebrating our 1974 rewrite of our sort of constitution. Anything to we will celebrate anything to have a drink. We really will. We are celebrating the rewrite of our constitution. It's like you guys having a day off because they added an amendment. Yeah. So I hope to start at 3 p.m. in the afternoon on Friday. No, tomorrow. Sorry, tomorrow, 3 p.m. And then, as per usual, after the trial concludes, it will be Slightly Buzzed Friday Law Show, where we go through what happened on that day in the Karen Reed trial. Might have guests, because it's also the Swedish National Day, and there will be an appearance of the Wheel of Regrets. And if you're new here and have no idea, Nick, what is the Wheel of Regrets? Well, this is the Wheel of Regrets. Alcohol and hot sauce. Yeah, anything for entertainment, anything to entertain you guys. All right, everybody, thank you for being here. Thank you for allowing me to do this. Thank you for allowing me to listening to me rant about this case. And yeah, just thank you. And thank you to Derek for your £3 super sticker. Thank you to David Trailer for your $10 super chat. And thank you to Slidey Pie for your $1 Rumble rant. And thank you guys over at X. Thank you over at Rumble. Thank you here. Hit the like, hit the subscribe, you know, all the YouTube things. And I will see you back here tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for some truths regarding the YSL RICO. Okay. Thank you again, and have a good one. Bye-bye.
Sail the raven waves, brothers. Axis high, shield strong. From distant lands we gather, hearts of fire all along. Oh, big Nick calls we follow, through the storm and through the fight. For Valhalla we will borrow strength and might under moonlight. Warriors of the ancient sea, songs of glory dark and bold.
Oh, folks, I completely forgot. Mr. Jingles, who will turn 10 soon. Thanks, you too. All right, I'm going to send you over to Sean, potentially criminal. Well, he will go through just about what I did. Say hi to Sean for me and have a good one.